We at Netrunners.co.uk are pleased to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the first game of our coverage of the Exeter Store Championships held at Clifton Road Games on the 24th of January 2015. My name is David, and you will see me there sporting lovely Chaos Theory on the left, while my opponent Will is at Exeter Local sporting The World Is Yours, NDN. So this is actually the second round of Swiss, just for those of you that aren't aware. I unfortunately had some technical difficulties in the first game of the round of Swiss, where I actually didn't finish recording the whole match, and so as a result I haven't posted that one up. It went very much to time, and so as a result the second game was rushed, and it probably wouldn't be fair to my opponent to put that up without the first game. So I've actually split the first round. I won my Corp game and lost my runner game, and we're now presenting to you, like I say, the second round of Swiss. So my opponent Will's played a sweep, and ice. I have modded out an Opus, which is always a great way to start a game. I've got two modded at the moment at the deck. This deck very much reliant upon the early doors Mopus. Without it, it doesn't have any economy. I will run off R&D and see an Astro script, which is, as first runs go, pretty darn good. He left R&D open, unfortunately got incredibly unlucky there, and the choice for me there was either drawing up or installing that astrolabe that I had in hand. So you can see my tokens. I have Broken Egg tokens for those of you that aren't aware from previous casts. I encourage you to go and look at Broken Egg games for those, and some rather lovely new click trackers courtesy of Team Covenant, and go and have a look at those as well if you haven't had the opportunity to do so. I will draw and play an astrolabe and take 2 credits and pass the turn. My opponent also took the chance to ice up R&D's drawing as well. Looks like he's got a subliminal messaging in hand, which he will play. A card that hasn't seen a huge amount of play recently, but nevertheless seems to do good work. He'll also hedge fund and then pass the turn over. Got a couple of interesting cards in hand. That looks like an archer maybe, so who knows, maybe we'll see a bit of a surprise. He is going to ice up a remote, which lets me draw a card as he set up a new server from Astrolabe. So first click, I'm going to run HQ, and we'll see a toll booth, which is a pretty grim way for me to start my second run. First run scored an Astro script, so I shouldn't complain too much. That does mean, unfortunately, that I haven't got a lot of money. Oh, and there's the Merlin. So I mean, that's not ideal. Not ideal at all. He hasn't got anything else to put out with it, but he will get rid of my Mimic and a test run. Not great. I'll access CNE PD, which I can't afford to steal because I'm on 3 credits, which is always a rookie error. And we now know that we're facing a Grail deck, and I pass the turn over after having taken 4 credits. My opponent looking to draw up, and I guess make that Merlin a little bit more tasty. You have to forgive me if I get the names wrong of all the Grail ice. I always get them mixed up. I know Lancelot is the Sentry, the program trashing one. Obviously we've got Galahad, which is the barrier, which is the end the run one. Looks like he's drawn up and installed and upgraded into R&D. And pass turn over to me. I'm going to draw up a little bit and run on that remote. He'll res a wraparound. Haven't seen much tutoring, and obviously had that test run discarded, which isn't ideal. Grail was prominent, shall we say, ladies and gentlemen, at the Exeter Store Championships. In my 4 rounds of Swiss, I encountered Grail ice in every single game. My first round was a RP Grail deck that also ran some 1-pointers. I think hence the reason why it went on for, I think, over an hour that game. It was frantic, to say the least, my second game as a result. But yeah, Grail ice, very much a thing here. Probably Dave Hoyland's fault, since he posted up his Grail RP list. Lots of things are Dave Hoyland's fault, and I do seek any and all opportunities to blame him whenever possible. But yeah, as a result, Grail is definitely a fixture that we're going to be seeing a great deal of here. And it makes perfect sense in The World Is Yours. Obviously with an extra hand size, it's very useful to be able to hold on to extra Grail pieces in hand without it actually clogging up your hand too much. And obviously MBN strong as soon as they get that first Astro scored. We're going to run HQ, having bypassed the Fem. And we're going to run and steal the NAPD, which I saw earlier on top of R&D. So test run the Fem, run, break, and unfortunately has to go back on top. And I'm also going to have a look at something else as well. Nothing too exciting. Was that, I think I made it a Maker's whatchamacallit, legwork. That's the word I was looking for. He's going to hedge fund, seeing a lot of economy already. So that's 2 sweeps weeks, a subliminal and 2 hedge funds. So I mean, he's certainly seen his economy cards there, nice and early, causing problems. I'm going to parasite the Merlin and pass the turn over to him, having taken money. He obviously will then gain the subliminal messaging back to hand because I didn't make a run. So just gaining money and parasiting. Parasite is a good answer for Grail Ice. The problem is the time it takes. More often than not, Merlin is the Grail piece that's on the board, so to speak, whereas Lancelot and Galahad often will stay in hand. And so it becomes, it's a long time to wait. 4 turns is not particularly ideal to get rid of that key piece of ice. Got the scavenge now, but unfortunately used the test run already to get rid of the Fem. So now I'm looking for another test run, my final test run, and in all likelihood what I'm probably going to have to do is just install that the old-fashioned way and get up to 9 credits to install and bypass that toll booth. Having already lost 2 test runs is going to be difficult. He will score a license acquisition, which enables him to install an upgrade for free, or resin upgrade for free out of Archives or HQ, I believe. Looks like it's going to be HQ, and it's a midway station grid. Not going to do a great deal with a toll booth on the as the ice protecting the server, but he's obviously hoping to get more Grail Ice there. So we've seen a game plan here. It's to make these servers incredibly taxing to break down and get through. As you can imagine, most Grail Ice typically comes in with 3 subroutines, and paying 6 to get past 1 piece of ice, that's not going to be a lot of fun for anyone. I'm already hedging my bets here, as you can see, as to what kind of deck I'm facing. I've ditched my Plascrete and taken a lot of money with Magnum Opus. But it's important. I've seen another sweeps week there, so that's 3 sweeps weeks and 3 hedge funds, I believe now, or maybe 2 hedge funds. I'm pretty sure it's 3. So I mean, again, he cannot complain. He has seen every single piece of economy, and he's going to install another asset or upgrade into that remote. And obviously, they've still got Astros, so we do have to be careful. And license acquisition is going to work as a decent economy card for him there, if nothing else. We've got a clone chip out, but I don't think we've seen an SMC yet on the board, so the clone chip isn't going to do a great deal at this stage for me. Hasn't set any other remotes up, so I've only got the 1 card extra value out of Astrolabe, and it is extra value. You still get the memory with it. We are going to run the remote. I'm not sure if I've got something in Archives I could potentially use. He's going to res the Galahad and show a Lancelot in hand, so it's a program trashy, and I don't think I have any means of getting through that. I'm not sure why I ran in the first place, and I do think this was probably a misplay on my part. I'm not quite sure why I... Oh, that's right, I ditched the David. So my plan, I believe, was to go through and break the wraparound with David, which obviously would be at 7 strength with the wrap, because there's no barrier breaker out, and unfortunately run headlong into a Galahad. Still a significant misplay on my part. I think I'm taking 4 here without realising that I don't actually have a Magnum Opus out on the board. So used to am I with this deck. So I do correct the error, which is important to note. I spot the fact that I'm taking Magnum Opus money without a Magnum Opus. It looks like he is clearing virus counters, so 1 obviously goes back on at the start of my turn. So I can bring the Magnum Opus out with the clone chip, but that again sets me back. Haven't got a choice though. I'm only at 4 points. This game is going to be long. I just drew up into another Magnum Opus, so that was incredibly fortunate. Top deck the MO with 5 credits, and am I going to just take 4 here? I think probably. I am indeed. Got a zoo in hand, so I've got a means of breaking code gates, but he hasn't put any code gates down yet other than the Merlin and obviously the toll booth, which I do not want to break with zoo under any circumstances. He will subliminal messaging. Got a Beal in hand as well, by the looks of it. And another wraparound, so a barrier break is going to be important here. My barrier breakers are Lady and Lady, so scavengers do a lot of work and heavy lifting in this deck. It looks like I do even have one in hand, so I made a real misplay by not playing it and attacking that remote with a barrier breaker. So I will install the Lady for 4 credits. It comes on with 4 counters. And this is again the problem. This deck was not geared up for Grail, and I underestimated how significant Grail was going to be at the Store Championships, because Lady is not a great solution for Grail Ice. If it comes on with 3 subroutines, it means that you have to burn 2 counters to get through it. But in this case, he didn't do anything, so that's fine. Doesn't really matter. Obviously, it was going to come on with 2, which I was able to break, and then 1 for the wraparound. There's a Sand there, which I'll pay 5 to trash, and I'll access a Jackson Howard. And it's whether he's going to. It doesn't look like he's going to trigger it, so I will trash it for 3 credits. And that's an expensive turn, though. 4 for the lady, and then 8 to trash the assets in the bottom of the bank, in the bottom of the reserve. Sorry. He's going to install another piece of ice over that remote. And again, you can see that Archer in hand, and that's nothing to be sniffed at. He's running an MBN deck with 1-pointers, so it's less of a sacrifice for him. And there's certainly the feeling here that I'm getting that the game's going to go on. He hasn't scored yet. I've managed to deny the Astro there with a Res Sansan, which is important. But with license acquisitions in the deck, he can just bring that back res, having scored a license acquisition. Looks like I'm going to take some money and pass the turn. He's going to subliminal messaging, and again, he's getting great value out of those subliminal messagings. I'm not able to run every turn. There's absolutely no possibility of being able to do that. Perhaps if I had the Fem as a permanent fixture on the toll booth, that may be more of a possibility. But as it stands at the moment, it's all looking a little bit grim for me here. He's going to install another piece of ice on that remote. The Merlin dies horribly to Parasite at long last. So we've got something in that remote, and another 2 pieces of unresed ice. Presumably the Lancelot's going to be in there. He's already shown it in hand, and this is the downside with Grail Ice. Obviously, you don't want to install it all. You want to keep something in hand so that you can make the ice more taxing. But at the same point, if you have an opportunity to keep someone out, then you should definitely do it. I'm going to install the SMC first click. I still only have 6 credits, so I'm going to have to let that go. I'm going to take 4, and I'm going to run, I think, by the looks of it. So here we go. I think I probably should have just let this one go, but can you let the early Astro go? Oh, no. I'm attacking R&D. Interesting, and there's the Archer. That's not good. That is not good at all. Luckily, I have the SMC on the board. I don't think I've got the Sharpshooter in hand or in archives. I'm pretty sure I checked that because I was expecting the Lancelot at the very least. So I'm going to pay 2 and go and fetch a Sharpshooter. Again, not brilliant. The other option I had was to use David, but it's not brilliant. I'm just checking to make sure Midway isn't going to trigger here for using Sharpshooter, and it doesn't because it just breaks all subroutines as a trash. So that's fine. It's still going to cost me a few bob to get through that for 1, and so it's not ideal. It's going to cost me 2, 3, I think, to get up. Yeah, 3 to get up to strength and break all subroutines with the Archer, but it saves my Magnum Opus again. I'm not going to bother trashing the Midway grid, I don't think. At this point, there's not a lot of reason to. I'm not going to be able to get many accesses on. There's another Sansan which I will trash, so it's a good job I didn't trash it anyway, because the Sansan's definitely a higher priority target. The next card was an Astro script there, I think you probably saw from the top deck. And he will score an Astro script, which was in the remote server. So now we've got some real pressure. He's got another Astro in hand there as well, and presumably going to score it out. I've done well to reduce his economy after him seeing pretty much all his economy cards. I'm not going to be able to run, so he will get his subliminal messagings back, and I'll be surprised to see him here to use subliminal and then probably score another Astro script from hand, unless he's feeling particularly brave or confident. The temptation could be okay, he's going to do that. The temptation I feel could be here to try and install and score it out via the remote. In a respect, the traditional way, but he's going to just Astro out an Astro, taking him to 4 points, so that's 4 each. He's got an Astro token still to be able to use, only on 3 credits. It's cost him a fair few bob to keep me out now at this stage. I'm going to take money and pass the turn. He's going to get his subliminal messaging back, and there's not a huge amount I can do to avoid that. He's going to play a subliminal for another credit. I'm getting up to a decent economic position. I can clone chip out the SMC and put more pressure breaker-wise on. Perhaps or I could bring back a Mimic, which is also in my heap. I keep saying archives, apologies about that. Got another SMC on the board as well, so I think that's probably what I'll do. And sorry, an SMC in hand. So I could play the SMC. I'm not. I'm going to play the Fem. Probably the right call, I think. Attack his hand. So I'm playing it the old-fashioned way. Only cost me one to bypass. Midway grid does nothing because I'm not actually breaking any subroutines. I'm bypassing the ice. And I imagine he's probably wishing that he had placed that midway grid in the remote rather than on the centrals. I'm certainly in no hurry to trash it in case he can get it back with a Jackson Howard. I'm quite keen to leave those there on the centrals because they're not damaging me at all at the moment. Seeing a Galahad, so he's got more Grail Ice in hand. I think he's still got a Beal and an NAPD there, so perhaps a little bit unfortunate. But this game is definitely going long. He's going to see another Subliminal, which he'll play. Got a pop-up window there in hand as well. And he's going to score out the Beal with the Astro token. I'm not sure, it probably makes good sense. I was attacking HQ quite aggressively, and takes him up to 6 points now, so Breaking News will win it for him if he's running Breaking News, and there's a distinct possibility that he's not, having seen the license acquisitions already. So I mean, presumably he's replaced his Breaking News with license acquisitions to try and cheat out those midway grids and so forth. I will score the NAPD. I had 4 credits left, and that was intentional that time. Taking me to 6 points as well, so it's 6 points all, and the race is on for that last point. He's got a handful of ice, a lot of Grail. Can I keep him out from scoring the last agenda? That is the question. Is he able to keep me out? He certainly can keep me out of R&D at this stage. I'm not in any great hurry to. I'm surprised he's icing up R&D. Not really necessary. Icing up HQ definitely important now. He doesn't have. I've trashed a lot of Sand, so he's not going to be able to install from hand very much. Or sorry, score from hand. He's going to need to make sure he's got a solid taxing remote. Try and run me through it. This is probably just going to be a take 8 turn for me, even though that hurts me, because he can just use subliminal messaging. At the very least, it clogs his hand up, because, you know, he's going to bring, I think, 3 subliminal messagings back to hand. So, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. But, you know, he's going to hold on to at least 2 pieces of Grail Ice in hand now. Every Grail's going to have 3 subroutines. So I think this is probably the right call. I'm going to Parasite the Galahad at the end of his turn via the clone chip, and remove 1 more piece of ice for me to have to deal with. Giving that some thought, I think it's the right call. I'd be surprised if I do anything else, and then the rest of the time I'm going to take 8 credits, leaving him again with the opportunity to bring back all of those subliminal messagings into hand. And it's a great deck, I have to say. This deck is very creative, something out of left field, not something I would expect, but nevertheless something that is doing great work for him. You know, those subliminals really are keeping his economic engine ticking nicely without having to rely on something like pad campaigns that can be trashed. It's a very, very nice style deck, and again, if that midway grid was on a remote, I imagine it would be doing a lot more damage than it is doing. I'm just going to use the opportunity to get my rig established, a little bit of a lull in tempo. I know that I'm going to have to hit that remote, and I'm going to hit it, so let's see what's in the bottom of it. I mean, I can't let any remote sit now as a toll booth there as a second piece of ice, so that's not going to be fun. I've got the zoo, but it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to get through, and there's another archer, and that is just grim. So he is trashing a 2-point agenda, taking him back to 4 points. Trashing the NAPD or the Beal or whatever it was that he scored there. So it's 2 points of agendas it's cost him there to res that archer. But he knows he has to keep me out here. I'm going to have to bump the strength of Fem up to save my rig here. I'm going to let him have 2 credits. I think actually I'm going to change my mind here. What I do, I realise that I'm not going to be able to get through anyway, so I might as well let the run end and break the give him 2 credits instead, particularly because his economy cards have come out. So I think that's what I'm just umming and ahhing between here. It's the right call. So I'm going to let the run end, and I'm not going to let him have the extra 2 credits from the Archer top subroutine. He's going to subliminal messaging, and he's got a huge scoring window here. So if he's got a 2-pointer, definitely now's the time to score it. It is in fact a Jackson Howard, so it's probably best I didn't go through and carry on. Not that I'd have the money to. Well, I could potentially go through. I can break the wraparound with Lady for free, effectively. So it's interesting as a Sansan, a Jackson Howard, and a hedge fund going back in. Surprised to not see 2 hedge funds go back into the deck. Sorry, not hedge funds, rather Sansans, I should say. I would expect him to put as many Sansans back in as possible there, because he knows he's going to have to score from hand here, I think, in order to keep me out with Magnum Opus on the board and a full breaker suite. That being said, Lady is a temporary fixture, and maybe he fancies his chances at using up my Lady tokens. He's going to install again and pass the turn, and there's no way I can go in and take that. I'm going to have to let him score it. It isn't match point for him now, so all things being considered, that's fine. So I am just going to take 8 credits and pass the turn over and let him score out whatever it is he installed there, after obviously subliminal messaging first, which makes good sense. And he will score another license acquisition, and so here's the reason why he didn't put another Jackson Howard back in, and that makes perfect sense when you consider he had a license acquisition in hand. So rather than putting both Sansans back in the deck, he left one in archives, knowing he was going to score the license acquisition, and got a free Sansan res out of it as a result, and that's a great play. So now he can score from hand. He's on 5 points. One more 2-pointer will do it. All he needs is a 3-2, and he can win this match. I have got to trash that Sansan. It is not looking good. I will run HQ and put a bit of pressure on his hand. So it's a pop-up window, and again, none of that works with midway grid, so that's fine. The legwork now would be absolutely ideal, but as it is, I don't have one. Seeing another Merlin there, I think, in hand. I'm giving him money, and I can't afford to do that too often, but at the same point, that Sansan could potentially spell the end of the game for me here. I'm going to go again, because I've got to try and stop him from seeing a 3-2 here. Nope, see another Merlin, and I'm feeling like at this point this could be game. And if he doesn't score out, then I know that I don't have to worry about HQ. So he hasn't scored out and won the game. He is going to install and advance. No, just going to install and take some money, I think, by the looks of it. So again, if that were an agenda, he would win. It could be an NEPD. And I do have to be aware of that. It's going to install another piece of ice over R&D. Again, I don't think that's necessary particularly, but I do have a sharpshooter. But without multi-access and R&D, it's not really worthwhile. I'm just going to have to take money. And am I going to run? I am, I think, going to run on that remote. I don't have a choice. He's only got 7 credits, and we know it's a toll booth. I am going to sharpshooter my way through the Archer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I've got enough memory, that's fine. So that cost me a couple of credits to go through. No res. I'm going to carry on and break through the wraparound with Lady, access, and see a daily business show. So it's a great play there on his part. Gives him the opportunity to fake out effectively what he needed. I will trash the Sansan. I'll leave the daily business show because I don't have a choice. I don't have the money to trash it. And Daily Business Show, again, another card that's going to do great work for him here. He's going to see the cards that he needs, and we know there's another Sansan in the deck somewhere now. Yeah, I would imagine he's just waiting up for the opportunity to score out with the Sansan. He's just going to take 3 credits and pass the turn. Leaving him on 8 credits. Again, I don't have the ability to go in, and I'm going to draw. I'm not sure what I'm drawing for there. Probably the right play would just be to take 8, but I will take 6 and pass the turn. So he'll Daily Business Show, and let's see what he sees. Not sure. Interesting. And again, those midway grids, again, you can imagine how much more damaging they would be if they were on the remote server. That being said, Sharpshooter has saved my butt on more than one occasion. But 2 Archers rezzed, Grail Ice, Toll Booths, and scoring Astros with Sansans midway grid. This is, by very definition, a taxing deck, and again, very much out of left field, not something you expect to see coming out of MBN. But just goes to show how diverse the field is becoming, and just how brutal Grail Ice is. People are building around it with very good reason. But, you know, those midway grids have the potential to do some real damage. archers on the board, Grail Ice on the board. Some nasty, nasty multi-subroutine ice. And, this is going to out-tax a lot of people. I have no doubt. Sir Lancelot, which is the sentry. And I just need to kind of give up with that. I know he's drawing, but at the moment he can't score from hand. Presumably he doesn't have the biotic to be able to do that. And I admit that's a big assumption to make, because I haven't seen a huge amount of influence at this stage beyond Grail and Archers, which makes up probably a significant portion of it, actually, to be fair. It's obviously Twee, so he doesn't have a huge amount of influence left, so I think I'm safe to assume that he's going to install and take 2 and pass the turn. We know it's an asset. We know it's not a Sand because he wouldn't have been able to. He wouldn't have had to trash the daily business show otherwise. So this is presumably the winning agenda. We're going to scavenge the Fem onto the Archer as the first click. We're going to take 4 and we're going to run because we have to. Do I have the means to get through the Archer? I have to bypass it for 4 with the Fem. He will res the toll booth for 8, which will cost me 3 credits. Do I have the means to break it with the Zoo? So it's going to cost me 3 credits. It's going to cost me 4 to get up to strength, 5 to break it. So I think we're good. 3 credits paid. It's a close one though, and literally I only have the exact amount of money I need to get through to this server. And thank goodness Lady doesn't take a credit to get past the wraparound. I will do it, and this is all or nothing, and it's the Beal, and it's the win. And that was an epic, epic game, and fair play to my opponent. I think it was the right call, probably trying to install and go for the win, but 1 credit was all it took, and that scavenge saved the day. And I think if I hadn't scored there, there's absolutely no way on God's green earth that I would have been able to go in for the win. So fair play to Will, my opponent. That means I'm now 2 for 1, and look forward to the second game of our second round of Swiss. Join us there.